Okay, welcome everyone to How to Move Through Self-Doubt, Fear of Rejection, and Fear of Failure. I'm McKenna Sage. I'm your host and one of the co-founders of Follow Your Liveness and the Mastery of Coaching group. So welcome. Just get the settings all set up here. Make sure you guys can see and hear me. As you're joining in, just say hello in the chat and let me know that you can see and hear me. All right, so we are going to be talking today about the three biggest fears that keep coaches, aspiring coaches, and even just all kinds of entrepreneurs from achieving their big, audacious goals and dreams. So as you guys are joining in, I see some of you coming on live. Please say hello in the chat. Let me know sound is good, camera's good before we dive in. And we'll get started here. And then I'd love to hear from you. I'm going to share what the three biggest fears are that I've really seen, that we've seen in our coaching with our clients. And this is great for you to know for your own business. And it's also great for you to know in working with your clients, right? What kinds of fears and doubts are going to come up, because it's not enough as a coach to be able to, help someone know the steps to take. One of the most important things is to be able to walk people through the mindset side. That's so much of it, right? You can know everything that you need to do, but if you don't know how to walk yourself through or how to walk a client through when those fears and doubts come up or those patterns come up, then you or they, whoever we're talking about here, will get stuck. Right? You'll get stuck and you won't be able to move through that and move forward. So as you're tuning in here, let me just see in the chat if anyone's said anything. Nobody's said anything yet. Say hello in the chat. Tell me you can see and hear me so I know I'm not talking to an empty void here. So the three biggest fears that we see are self-doubt. And here's what self-doubt sounds like typically. Things like, I don't know if I have what it takes. I don't know if I have what it takes to fill in the blank. It could be to start my coaching business, to have a successful business, to, find the person of my dreams, whatever you're doing. We're going to talk mostly about coaching today because most of you are growing coaching businesses, but with a client, it could be something different. So I don't know if I have what it takes. Another one is so many people are doing this already. Who am I to think that I could be successful? So if you resonate or, if you've experienced some of these fears or the self-doubt, if you resonate with self-doubt as the big fear or thing that holds you back, type self-doubt in the chat. Okay, good. We've got some people saying they can hear me, so that's awesome. So Alyssa, Dustin, anybody else who's working or watching, is self-doubt one of your big ones? If so, type self-doubt in the chat. The second one is fear of rejection. So fear of rejection sounds a little bit like this if we think about the thoughts that you might be thinking. What if I put myself out there and people don't want what I have to offer? Right? Have you ever thought that? Like, what if I put it all on the line and then people don't want it? Or what if people make fun of me or judge me? If I show up online as a coach, what will my family think? What will my friends think? What will the world think, right? So fear of rejection is the second one. Self-doubt, fear of rejection. So if one of those, just type which one in the chat resonates the most for you. And then fear of failure is the third one. So what if I give this my all and I don't succeed? Have you ever thought that? Or what if I go broke? That's a kind of fear of failure, right? And finally, what if I'm just not good enough? That's kind of like a self-doubt, fear of failure. It could be either one. I would almost call that more of a self-doubt. So, but it's kind of like, what if I'm not good enough to succeed is kind of the fear of failure. So which of these three do you resonate with the most? Like which one comes up for you the most? Is it more like self-doubt? Is it the fear of rejection? Or is it the fear of failure? Type in the chat and let me know which of those three you relate to the most. And then, or is it all of the above? You could type that too. All right. So that way I know what we're working with today and I can really make this interactive. So while you guys are doing that, I'm going to sip my coffee. I've switched to decaf lately and it doesn't quite have the same buzz, but it tastes good. Okay, so these kinds of fears, these self-sabotaging thoughts are the biggest roadblock that keeps far too many brilliant people playing small in their life and in their business. So we see this all the time with our clients, and I've been there myself as well. I'm going to tell some of my vulnerable stories today about going through fears and self-doubts, because I don't want you thinking like, oh, here I am on a pedestal, I've got it all figured out. The truth is, no one has it all figured out. And no matter what level in business people get to, there are still fears and doubts. So I want to normalize this. All right. Okay. We've got someone with fear of rejection being their number one. If you're just tuning in, let me know in the chat, what do you resonate or relate to the most? Do you experience mostly self-doubt takes you out of the game, fear of rejection, or fear of failure? Which one is it for you? Let me know in the chat. So I really want to normalize the fact that this is something that happens at every stage in business. It just feels and looks a little bit different. And also it tends to be the case that the more successful you become, maybe it gets a little less intense, some of the fear and doubt, but there's new fears and doubts that show up, right? Because you've overcome a lot of them. And so you're like, okay, I know I can overcome this, but the new ones show up and that can be equally as scary. So we see this all the time in our clients, and I've been there myself, and it's such an important topic, and we talk about it a lot because otherwise it is the thing that keeps most people stuck. They think that what they need is a strategy, like how do I grow my coaching business? How do I find clients? And that's great. It's important to learn the strategies also. But what I see so much of the time is that even if people know the strategies, it doesn't necessarily work, or they don't actually take the action. Have you ever experienced that? Like, you know the things to do, but you just don't do them? Who's experienced that? Say me in the chat if you've experienced that before. Like, you know the things to do to grow your business, but you're just not doing it. Or you know the things to do to get out there and get clients, and you're just not doing it. Who's ever experienced that before? So this typically comes down to mindset. This comes down to often those fears and doubts. So when I started my coaching business, I thought a lot of different things that, you might be relating to. I thought, do I really have what it takes to change lives? That was a big one for me. Like, can I actually, I know I want to coach. I know I have this on my heart to help people, but do I actually have what it takes? And I remember thinking, I don't even know if I want to put myself out there online. I get that, you have to be visible, but really, do I have to talk about what I ate for breakfast? Do I have to talk about what things I'm going through? I don't really know if I want to put myself out there online. And another one was, what if I go for this and I fail? And for me, it was, what if I go for this and I fail because I failed once before? Because I had already failed once to start a coaching business. Many of you know the story that in 2017, I tried and failed to start a coaching business. And so I had even more fears and doubts about why I couldn't do it. So it was not this beautifully paved yellow brick road that I just followed step by step into the business of my dreams. I had to go through so much of this to get here. Okay. So I want to hear from you guys as you are watching. What do you relate to the most? Right? Fear, self-doubt, fear of rejection, fear of failure. Because I want to be able to coach you here live on the call, if possible, to really support you to move through this. And then how is that showing up for you? So like Dustin, you said rejection. How does that stop you right now? Like the fear of rejection, you're going for it or you have an idea, and then what actually shows up to stop you? Okay, so again, I had every reason to think I didn't have what it takes to be a successful coach. And so when I ultimately made the leap, or let's just fast forward to now. Here I am 4 years later, 4 years from fully making the leap, 5 years just about from when I failed to start a coaching business. And I'm running a thriving $500,000 coaching business and growing fast. And so something changed in all of that, right? And some of it was strategy and some of it was really mastering coaching, but a huge part of it was also the mindset. And I'm going to talk all about today and give you guys lots of really practical tools and tips. So get your pen and paper out, get ready to take notes so that you can really go out and apply this for yourself to really grow your business, but also with your clients. Also with your clients, because we want you to have ways to support your clients to move through their own fears and doubts. Now, I will say it's very important as a coach that you be in full integrity, meaning you can't just be telling people something you heard on a live about how to move through fear and doubt. You have to be embodying it, because it comes from such a different place when you're embodying it. It's like if I got up here and I was leading this live, but I was still at the very beginning, terrified and hadn't moved through my fears and doubts yet, then that would not be me teaching from an embodied place. So I want you to take notes and really try everything on for yourself first before you go out and use it with your clients, because very important that you be in integrity there, that you have the embodied experience of what it is like to move through those fears and doubts so that you can support others to do the same. This is why in our coaching certification, Aliveness Mastery, everything we teach, it's not just like memorize some things and take a test. Everything you apply to yourself first before you ever go out and use it with a client. Why is that? Because you need to be teaching from an embodied place, because then your work comes from who you are. It's not just something you've heard about or memorized or studied or something like that. Very, very different experience. So get your pen and papers out and let's get going. So as I said before, the fears and doubts haven't disappeared from me. They've just changed to new ones. And I have better tools now for moving through them. And I have a track record of moving through them. So they no longer hold me back from pursuing my dreams. And this takes place step by step by step. So wherever you are is perfectly okay. If you're right at the beginning, that's okay. Just know fears and self-doubt are normal. This is my first big point. All right. I want you to just write that down. Fear and self-doubt is normal. Everyone experiences it. I don't know. Maybe there's some people that have like brains are set up in a different way, but everyone I've ever met and talked to, everyone I've ever coached experiences fear and doubt. They experience it in different ways, but it's human nature. And part of this has to do with the way our brains are wired. So you may know that we have our conscious thinking, right? And then we have our unconscious or our subconscious mind, our subconscious mind. And our subconscious mind is about, everybody says a different percentage, but 95% of our brain is actually subconscious thinking below the level of consciousness. So we, the choices we think we're making in our day to day is only about 5% of our brain power making those conscious choices. The rest is happening below the level of our conscious thought. We don't even know it's happening. But that 95% is actually dictating so much of our behavior. And so in that, there's a part of your brain that is designed to keep you safe. This is like the old primal part of ourselves. And we evolved and there's a part of us that said, hey, there's wild animals out there, like don't go out there. And so if you were in a cave or you were somewhere and you were safe, that part of your brain would say, don't go out there in the dark where there's growling wild animals, stay here. Right? And so that part of our brain is still within us, even though we're no longer living in caves with wild animals, right? So that part of our brain says, right now you are safe. You're safe, you're warm, you're okay. And so anything that's going to stretch you outside, like going out of the cave and going on some grand adventure or going out and starting this business or anything that pushes you out of your comfort zone, that part of your brain is going to say, not safe. And it's going to try to stop you. And this is not malicious. It's actually your brain trying to keep you alive. And it thinks, oh, we're alive right now. We're healthy. We're okay. So keep doing what you're doing. Don't go out and rock the boat, so to speak. So you've got this huge part of your brain that's basically working against you going out and stretching yourself and starting a new business or whatever it is you want to do, whatever that big dream or goal is. And so it's important to know that whenever something is unknown, whenever it's new, or whenever it stretches you out of your comfort zone, you're going to experience fears and doubts. Write that down. Whenever something stretches you out of your comfort zone, whenever it's unknown, you're going to experience fears and doubts. Can we just get like a I'm with you in the chat. I want to just know that you guys are hearing this, that it's landing for you, because I feel like what people think is like, I'm alone in this. Have you ever felt that way? Like, I'm alone in experiencing this fear and doubt. Everybody else has it all together, and I don't. And the truth is, that's just not true. Everyone's experiencing the fears and doubts. Some people are just more practiced at moving through them. So we're going to be talking about how you do that in just a moment. So the key here is not to buy into those fears and doubts. It's not to let them keep you stuck, okay? So instead, I'm going to give you a few different strategies, and I want you to write these down, take notes, and interact here in the chat so I can, okay, good. Timothy said it's landing. Interact here in the chat so I know you guys are listening. It just really helps me kind of, again, answer questions and support you as we're going through. So the first strategy I want to talk to is actually diving into your fears and doubts. And this may seem counterintuitive. You may think, well, they're already popping up all the time. Why would I give them any more room to do so, right? People tell me, oh, I'm in fear all the time. I'm feeling so nervous. I have all this doubt. It's taking over my thoughts and I can't sleep at night. Then I say, obviously, it's wanting to be heard, right? And there's a part of most people that goes, no, like, I'm just going to push this aside. I'm just going to like keep doing stuff and I'm not going to go there. But obviously it's not working, right? So instead, what I want you to do is give your fears and doubts a voice to speak instead of trying to push them down. And this doesn't have to be a super long process, and it's not something you're going to do forever, but we want to go in and whatever situation is bringing up that fear and doubt, I want you to take pen to paper and write, or if you need to talk it out on an audio, if you're not really a writer, like you could record a voice note and just delete it afterwards, but somewhere that you are able to emote and talk through or write through all of those fears and doubts. So I want you to write out everything you're afraid of, every doubt that's coming up as you think about doing this thing. Go down the worst case scenario. All right. Write down what is the worst that could happen. And I want you to fully go there because most of us, we don't want to go there, but a part of our brain is going there. It's like, wild animal, you're going to get eaten alive. You're not going to be able to pay your bills. Everyone's going to laugh at you. There's a part of our brains, our subconscious brains, that is thinking that already. And we're trying to push it away and go, no, 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 there's no wild animals out there. But the truth is, we know that those things are possibilities. And so give that part of you a voice to speak. Okay? That's the first one. Dive deeper into your fears and doubts because you have to go through them. You can't just push them away. Who's on board for trying that one? Say on board in the chat. Okay. Second one, write this down. Number 2, make friends with your fear. Make friends with your fear. Now, this is much easier said than done, right? But I really want you to understand that if you are on a growth path, especially if you are on a entrepreneurial path, you're starting a business or you're running a business, and especially if that business has to do with helping others with their growth, you have like compounding levels there of growth, right? Of if you are going to show up, run your own business, which is a personal growth journey in and of itself, and then support other people on their personal growth journeys, then the way you are up for a path of growth, let me tell you, and a path of transformation and challenges, but challenges that you get to rise up to and overcome and become the person you were always meant to be in the process and make the impact you were here to make in the process. So it's so worth it, in my opinion. And I want you to understand that if you are on a growth path, whether you check any of those boxes, entrepreneur, helping others, doing your own personal development, fear is not going to go away. It is not. I'm sorry. That may be an unpopular opinion, but it is the truth. I experience fear on a regular basis. And if I am not experiencing fear, then I know that I've actually gotten a little too comfortable. Now, it's okay to be comfortable for periods of time, but for me and the path that I'm on and the growth that I'm committed to and the impact I'm committed to making, I know my comfort zone is not where that's going to happen. And so instead of, again, running away from the fear, first we talked about instead of trying to push the fear down, we're going to dive deeper into it so that we have it instead of it having us, right? Then we're talking here about instead of like trying to say, oh, I'm not going to feel any fear and I want it to go away, we're going to actually make friends with our fear and go, oh, okay, there's that fear. That's good. That means I'm on track, right? That means there's something here for me. Not like the bad kind of fear, like, oh, it just feels terrible and I have no, like the one that's like, oh, I'm really scared, but kind of feels like a little exciting too. And I don't know, that kind of fear, right? That is a sign you are moving in the right direction. Okay. Fear and excitement are very closely connected. Okay, so don't let your mind take you out of the game. You want to make friends with your fear and start to reprogram yourself, retrain yourself to see it as a good thing. And take action anyway. Don't let it stop you. Don't let it take you out of the game. Okay, we're good. We've got one on board. So feel the fear and do it anyway. We've all heard this, right? But I want you to actually, you don't have to take all the things I say today and apply them. Just take whatever lands for you the most. We're going to cover a lot of different strategies, and I want you to commit to taking at least one of them and implementing it. Okay, so keep going with your notes. Keep going with interacting in the chat, letting me know you're hearing this and receiving it. And then if you would, if anything I say today resonates with you, I want you to commit to taking one nugget and applying it for the next 30 days. Anything that doesn't resonate with you, just ignore it or cross it out on your notes or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. Some things are going to land for you, some things are not. So we've covered already diving deeper into your fears, making friends with your fear, like seeing it as like, oh, there it is. That's how I know I'm growing, right? And taking action anyway. Okay, the third strategy I want to talk about, and in a minute we're going to go deeper into each of the specific fears and doubts. Like I know someone said fear of rejection was theirs. Tim, I'm curious for you, what out of is self-doubt, fear of rejection, or fear of failure? What is the one that's taking you out of the game the most when it comes to really building your business or achieving your dreams? And I'm going to plug my computer in 1 second. Okay, so as you guys are writing that down in the chat, letting me know, and anybody else who's on live, let me know which of those 3 fears so that I can really tailor the way I share about this to you. The third way to really start to move through these fears, and by the way, one little note on the like diving deeper in is after you record that voice note, delete it. After you write down all your fears and doubts, tear them up. Okay, make a conscious choice to let them go now that you've fully embraced them, now that you've fully allowed yourself to walk through them. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. The third one is getting support. Often without support, we get stuck in habitual ways of thinking or habitual patterns that take us out of the game. So some common patterns we see, I talk about these a lot in these lives, and I kind of touch on different ones. So overwhelm can be one. So the pattern of you get like so overwhelmed and then you kind of stop everything, right? Confusion, like you just start getting really confused about what you're doing or what you should be doing. And then that kind of takes you out of the game, right? Perfectionism, like everything has to be perfect. And so nothing's ever perfect. And so you don't ever put it out there. Or when you do, it doesn't really have that much energy because you spent so much time getting it perfect that it doesn't even conduct anymore, right? So perfectionism also is a big pattern. It takes people out of the game. Shiny object syndrome. I'm so excited about this thing. I'm going to go for it. Oh no, wait, I'm so excited about this other thing. Yeah, I'm not doing that one anymore, right? Oh, I have this new idea. No, I want to do this other idea. Shiny object syndrome. So you never gain momentum in any of them. And another one, and this is basically what these all kind of lead to in the end, is just called quitting. Quitting. Do you have a pattern of stopping before the finish line? Basically, that's what happens with all of these. We get overwhelmed, we stop. We get confused, we stop. We get too perfectionistic, eventually we stop, right? Or we don't even put it out there in the first place. We get so distracted by different ideas that we stop on the one that we were going for and go to something else, and we never have the chance to really go for it. So there's these habitual patterns that take us out of the game. And we talk in our programs about identifying what is your primary pattern and then learning new strategies to actually move through that. But I will just say that across the board, the biggest sort of support, or the biggest solution that's worked for me is just getting support to move through them, getting the right kind of support to move through them so they don't keep you stuck. Otherwise, if you look back, you'll start to see a pattern. Oh, wait, like, yeah, that time that I was wanting to do something and I didn't go for it, that showed up. Oh, yeah, it was kind of similar that other time and that other time, right? And how do you shift that? Because it's like a blind spot for you almost. Even once you recognize it, people go, oh, now that I know what it is, I'll do something different. That's great, but the reality is 95% of your brain is running that pattern. And it keeps showing up unless we have support and a process, but more than just a process, usually a person or a community or something that knows how to support us in terms of pointing out those blind spots and helping us move through them when they're showing up. Because you get so engrossed in it when you're in it that you believe your mind. You believe your mind. And that is a big thing. We don't want to believe your mind in this case. We've got to walk you through it so you can be consistent and you can get the results you want. So we've covered diving deeper into your fears and doubts, making friends with your fear, and getting support to move through the patterns that keep you stuck. So all of this leads to you have to stay the course. You have to stay the course through the ups and downs in order to be successful. You get that? That development is we call it an upward spiral. Okay? Development is an upward spiral. Okay, I'm just reading Tim's notes here. Missed the outline for the 3. Fear of rejection, perfectionism, confusion, and quitting all apply. Uh-oh. Social anxiety too. It says this broadcast has been paused, back on now. Okay, perfect. Welcome back. So yeah, often we'll recognize ourselves in a lot of them. And if that's you, don't feel bad about it, because it's normal. Like, I'll read the list of like the 12 patterns that take people out of the game, and people will be like, I think I have all of them. Like, okay, but let's choose the number 1, right? Let's choose 1 or 2 and really focus there, because the truth is there's 1 or 2 that takes you out of the game more than others. So great to be self-aware in that way, but don't be hard on yourself. And we want to really see for you, what are those patterns? We do something called a clarity call, which you may have heard us talk about before in these, and it's basically a 30-minute free coaching session. And in that session, there's nothing for sale. If you're interested in our programs, you do a separate application call after that. But in that 30-minute session, we help you identify what is your vision, what's that dream you want to go for, because like I'll talk about in a minute, your vision and your why has to be bigger than your fear. That is the key. That's the key right there. If your vision and your why is bigger than your fear, that's the first step. From there, you need to know what those patterns are. You need to know what those roadblocks are that take you out of the game so you can see how to overcome them. And so in that clarity call, we help you look at what are your visions and goals, what's holding you back, so that you can start to see how to make a shift. So if you're curious about that, just type clarity in the chat below and my team will reach out to you. It's free. It's no strings attached. It's basically a chance to get a feeling for working with us. And then if you're curious at all, we can talk again, like I said, about what it would be like to apply if we feel you'd be a fit for one of our programs as well. So back to the ups and downs. We talk about the upward spiral of development. The upward spiral of development is that as we are on our personal development journeys or our business journeys or whatever it might be, it's kind of like this upward spiral. But in the upward spiral, sometimes it feels like we're back where we started because we hit the other side of that spiral again. And the spiral goes like this: desire, I want something more, right? That call to something more. Then action. You go into action, hopefully, especially if you have support. But many of you start, you take action, then breakdown. Desire, action, breakdown. A breakdown happens. The pattern kicks in, the fears kick in, the doubts kick in. Now, what normally happens when the breakdown happens? We take ourselves out of the game, we go back to square one, right? And we start all over again. But it doesn't have to be that way. Because what happens is if you stay the course and if you have support to move through, and if you know how to walk yourself through, then desire, action, breakdown, break through. And when you break through, because the breakdown is usually right before the breakthrough, when you break through, you actually go to the next rung of the spiral. Okay? So there's these ups and downs in the journey of personal development, in the journey of building a business. And as long as what you're doing is truly aligned for you, and we make sure with our clients that whatever business they're building, whatever project they're working on, whatever dream they have truly lights them up, is really a fit for them, their gifts, their unique superpowers, like what they feel deep down they're meant to do, as long as that's true, then you want to stay the course through those ups and downs. If you're really off track with what you're doing, then we address that in our work together to make sure to see how do you make a change so that you have that deep down sense of, yes, I'm on track. Even if I don't know if this is the end all be all, I feel like this is the thing that's going to lead me to the thing. I'm excited about it. It fits my gifts, etc. So you don't want to, once you have that clarity, you're going to have the ups and downs. And what happens is when you have this awareness, then you can navigate the ups and downs with so much more grace and ease because you know it's not the end of the world and you know it's not a sign you're off track. It's just the mind. It's just the nature of reality that gives you these tests along the way to make sure you're ready to jump to that next level. So I want to talk about, oh my God, I have so many things I want to talk about, but I quickly want to just touch on your thoughts create your reality. Okay. So just, if you're still with me, say still with you. So I know that we're all listening, taking notes, hearing this, receiving it, and maybe share your biggest aha so far, okay, in the chat. So your thoughts create your reality. You may have heard this before, but it might seem a little ridiculous to some of you, right? You go like, how does that really work? How is that possible? I'm going to break it down for you. It's very simple. We didn't come up with this. Many teachers talk about this. But it's really important to understand, and they all kind of talk about it in a slightly different way. But here's the way we describe it. Something happens, okay? Something happens in your life. You have a sales call and the person says no. You have a thought about what happened. You go, oh my gosh, they said no because I'm not really good at what I do. I don't know if I can really do this. I don't know if I'm meant to do this. So you have these thoughts about what happened. They said no, they're not going to work with you. Then you start thinking these thoughts. Those thoughts trigger a feeling. Okay? You can write all this down if you want. Those thoughts trigger a feeling. What is the feeling in that case? Like disappointment, discouragement, frustration maybe. So those thoughts trigger feelings. Then we believe those feelings. We start going about our days feeling discouraged, feeling, like this isn't going to work, feeling frustrated. And then we start to act or make decisions based on the feelings. I'm not really going to do any more marketing for my business. I don't think I'm going to put myself out there anymore. I just need a break. Like this just isn't working. And so we start to make decisions and take different actions. That creates our reality. That creates our results or lack of them, right? We have no business coming in. This spirals over time, and eventually maybe you just quit. Now, this could have gone very differently. Someone says no to you on a sales call, right? They say, no, they're not going to work with you. And instead of getting spiraled into those thoughts, or you might think them, you go, you know what? The more no's I get, the more yeses are on the way. I'm going to keep going for it. And that thought triggers a different kind of feeling, like excitement and curiosity, and right. And so based on that feeling, go out and go, what if I tried to get 10 no's? Maybe at least a few of those, or one of those, or two of those would say yes. And you go out there and you go ask 10 people to do calls with you. And what do you know? A couple of them say yes. And then what kind of reality does that create? So it's not that our thoughts alone create our reality, although maybe there's some merit to that. It depends on who you ask. But even if you want to leave this out of the realm of like law of attraction, literally that progression I just shared creates your reality. Can you see in your life how this has happened? If so, type yes in the chat. Type yes in the chat if you see how this happens for you. Something happens, you have a thought about what happens, that thought triggers a feeling, you believe the feeling, you start to take actions based on that, and that creates your reality. So, this doesn't mean that you should never have negative thoughts, or that whenever you think negative thoughts, you're going to have terrible results or reality based on that. You can actually stop this process in the middle, and you don't have to let it get further than the thoughts or the feelings. You don't have to let it create your reality. And some of those strategies I already shared can help with that. And we have many more that we teach. But even more than that, we want to start to just shift the tide in the other direction. We want to start to shift the balance in the other direction, that more of your thoughts and more of your feelings are moving you in the right direction. And it's okay if you still have fears and doubts. Remember, it's normal, but we don't want you to get stuck there. That's the most important thing. If you need to have a bad day, have a bad day. If you need to have a bad week, okay, that's a little long. Ideally, for most people, you can move through this in a couple of days, unless it's like a really huge thing that happened in your life. Of course, there are things that happen in our lives that take us off for longer. You know, people have deaths or illnesses or really huge crises. But even then, you know, there's a way to grieve and to go through what you're experiencing. But for many people, it doesn't have to take them out of the game. So, but for most things that take us out of the game, they don't need to take more than a day or two. You don't want it to turn into a bad week or turn into a bad month or a bad year. Do you see how this could spiral? And have you experienced that before? If you look back, has that what's led you to where you are today in some sense? Right? Maybe you had a time that you were rocking and rolling, but now you spiraled. If so, don't get down on yourself. Don't feel guilty, but recognize that you can turn it around. You can turn it around, and you could start now, right now. You don't have to wait. So don't buy into the stories your mind tells you that it's always going to be this way. We talked about the upward spiral. So for me now, with the understanding of the upward spiral and the other strategies that we teach around mindset and the support that I have now in my life to move through things, I go through challenging times on a regular basis. That's part of human nature. It's part of life, right? So periodically I'll go through, I just went through one, like in the last few weeks, and I'm coming out of it as of this last week or two. But I know now, to me, I'm like, oh, okay, going through this challenging time, that means I'm in the breakdown. That means the breakthrough's coming. I need to keep moving forward instead of stopping and taking myself out of the game. See how that's a different frame? Such a different frame than going like, oh my gosh, it's always going to be this way. Everything's falling apart. I don't want to do this. If I did that, we would not have the business we have. We would not be making the impact we're making, and we're just getting started. I know to keep moving forward. I know to walk myself through with the processes that we teach to do this, and some of which I've already shared with you today and more that I'm about to share. I know to go out and get support to move me through it. And you know what's happened? I move through those phases so much faster than I used to. They used to take me out for months. And now I go through a challenging phase. There's good days, there's challenging days, but you go through these phases sometimes. And boy, it rarely lasts more than a few weeks. That there's these ups and downs and this frustration or whatever's coming up, and I keep taking action in spite of all that, and I'm getting support and I'm moving through it, and then the breakthrough. And I'm in a breakthrough right now, which is nice. Then the breakthrough, and the breakthrough to the next level, and energetically you can feel it, and you're so excited. You're like, I just want to go out there and build that next thing or share this with the world. So, and for our clients, I was talking to a client this morning, and she was saying, you know, she's in one of those challenging moments. And she said, but I know because of the upward spiral that this is the breakdown, that I need to keep going, that I can't just take my foot off the gas and quit everything. I can take care of myself, but I'm going to keep moving forward. I said, right on, right on. That's what we want. Okay. So let's dive into the three biggest fears, like I talked about: self-doubt, fear of rejection, fear of failure. I'm going to give you just really quick, rapid fire, some strategies for each of these. We've already talked about some overall strategies for fear and doubt. Now let's dive into the strategies for each of these. So self-doubt. I don't know if I have what it takes. So many people are doing that already. Who am I to think that I can be successful? And so on and so on. So, one thing is when you're in self doubt, your attention is on yourself, right? Self doubt, it's in the name. Your attention is on yourself. It's all right here instead of it being on the people that you're meant to serve. This is something we call, and I normally spend a lot longer on this, but I've done other lives on this topic, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. This is something we call the self doubt switch. Switching your attention off yourself and onto the people you're meant to serve. When you do that, everything changes. It's one of the great gifts of being a coach or working with people is that you have to show up for other people every day. And in that, a lot of your fears, frustrations, worries, whatever, you've got to put them aside. And when you do that, a lot of them cease to be such a big deal. And you're like, oh, wait, you get to the end of a client call or a prospect call or whatever it might be. And like that thing you were so worried about before, it doesn't feel that scary anymore. You're like, oh, yeah, okay. What do I do about this? And you move on. So the self-doubt switch is if you're stuck in self-doubt, notice your attention is on yourself. Instead, put it on other people. Go be out and be in service. And that will start to make a shift for you. Another one for self-doubt is turn down the noise. Turn down the noise. Stop following so many people on social media. Pick a couple of people that inspire you. Maybe I'm one of them, maybe I'm not. Pick people that inspire you and follow only them, but they need to inspire you like, oh, I love something about what they're doing. That's inspiring. I'm curious about that. I could see myself doing something like that. Not like, oh, they've got it all figured out, right? Oh, they're doing it already. If you're feeling that way, go unfollow everybody and then pick 5 or 10 people to follow, right? Turn down the noise so that you can turn up the volume on your magnetism. And we talk about in our programs how you can do that. We have a business coaching program starting this week called Magnetize and Thrive. And we have our Aliveness Mastery Coaching certification starting this week. And if you're watching this, the replay later, just reach out to us. We often have different groups starting. But in our programs, we talk about this much more. And how do you then turn up the volume on your magnetism so you stand out in a crowded online space? So that's a couple things on self-doubt. And the main thing with self-doubt is get into action, do it anyway. Then the self-doubt gets quieter over time. All right, fear of rejection. What if I put myself out there and people don't want what I have to offer? What if people make fun of me or judge me? So I want you to ask yourself these 2 questions. If fear of rejection was your big one, like Dustin, I know it was for you, ask yourself, if I knew I couldn't fail, what would I do in this situation? We've heard that one before, but really ask yourself. Or if I knew I would be wildly successful, what would I do? So when people tell me I don't know what I want, I say, if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do? And they know immediately. Or if you knew you would be wildly successful, what would you do? And they know immediately. So ask yourself that question. And then understand that some people will judge you. Because if you are out there on the court, if you are out there sharing your gifts with the world, doing the thing you're meant to do, there are people out there that are unhappy or for whatever reason, they're sitting on the sidelines and they're going to judge you. There are people that will be mean to you on the internet. It's the bigger you grow, the more likely that will happen. Can you get okay with that? Can you get okay with that? And do it anyway. That's it. It's not to tell yourself, oh, no one's going to judge me. Some people are going to judge you. But your why, remember, and your vision needs to be bigger than your fear. And if you don't feel like it is right now, or you don't know how to overcome this, then type clarity in the chat. We'll reach out to you about setting up one of those 30-minute free coaching calls, and we'll really help you start to walk yourself through this. Okay, fear of failure. What if I give this my all and I don't succeed? What if I go broke? Those kinds of thoughts. Same thing. Failure is a possibility. And the more you try to convince yourself it's not, your mind's like, yeah, it is, right? We could go broke. We could fail. And so instead, I want you to go, am I willing to do it anyway? Is my vision bigger than my fear? Even if I fail, would it be worth it? Would it be worth it because of what I'd learn, who I'd become in the process, the impact I'd get to make? Would it be worth it? And if so, go for it. And if not, don't. Then it's not the right thing. The second one on, what if I go broke is we always say, don't quit your day job. Don't quit your day job. If you need a source of income to take care of yourself while you are growing your coaching business or learning skills to develop a business, whatever it might be, take care of your needs. Don't put yourself in a desperate situation where you're just struggling. Okay? So don't quit your day job, at least not right away, until you gain some momentum. And as you gain momentum, you can then let go of your other positions. We've helped many people do this transition. I did it years ago out of my 6-figure plus business and into coaching. I've helped people with multiple jobs quit all those jobs and be able to fully go into the thing they want to do. I've helped people, all different kinds of things. So, and I say I, really we, my mom, myself, our team, have all supported people with these kinds of transitions. So in that, think about it as a transition, not like a leap, like I have to quit everything and then start this new business or venture. Make sure you're taking care of your needs so that you're not in this fear response that's like paralyzing you and keeping you from going for it. And then finally, your why, like I said, has to be bigger than your fear. So for me, my why is my guiding light. And my why is about helping people like you, of course, grow successful businesses and change lives. But you know why? Because it's what your soul came to this planet to do. If you're watching this, if you're in this group, a part of you knows deep down you're meant for something more. You've gotten that whisper, that nudge, whether you believe that comes from God, your higher self, or just whatever your belief is. For me, I believe that you have something you came here to do. And you becoming the most self-actualized version of yourself, you expressing your gifts in the world, you living full out is my why. And in that, a part of that for the people who work with us, many of them is growing a thriving business and making an incredible impact and then living an incredible life in the process. That is my guiding light. If I can help one more soul, one more person do that, then that is me living my mission out in this world. If I can help hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands or millions, even better, right? So everything I do is in service to that. And you want to discover your guiding light, your vision, your why, both for yourself and for the world. And if you're ready to discover that, if you're like, man, I want to know what that is, right? If you're at a place where you're so tired, like you might be watching this going like, oh my gosh, I can't even think about that because I just feel like I'm getting stuck in this fear and doubt and I'm just so done. That is the perfect place to be. When people come to me and they tell me that, they're like, I am at my end of my wits. I'm so sick of this. I will do whatever it takes to make a change. Those are the people that soar, man, because they are all in. You got to be all in to do this. You got to be all in to make that dream come true, to build that business you're dreaming of, to make that impact you're dreaming of. Because if one foot is out the door, it ain't going to happen. So if you're in that place where you're like, I am so done with all this fear and doubt, I am so ready to go for this, then I want you to type clarity below. Do that free coaching session. Nothing for sale on that call, no obligation, and see what shows up there in terms of your vision, in terms of your roadblocks. And then if you're curious beyond that, you can say, hey, I'm curious, or we'll ask you, are you curious about, learning more about our programs? And if so, we'll set up a separate call with you to talk about that. And if not, that's okay. We want you to take that breakthrough session though, and you've got to be at the place where you're ready to take action. If you're not in a place where you're ready to really make a change or really go for that dream, then don't use the call, right? You can use it at a later, I would say wait and use it at a later date when you are there, because otherwise you're not going to get the value. Whether you work with us or not, the value comes from being at that point of, I am ready to make a change. I am ready to do whatever it takes. So again, type clarity in the chat below if that sounds like you. I'm going to wrap up with just a couple of last stories. This is a little longer than I usually go. I usually try to keep these to 45 minutes, but obviously I have so much to share on this topic. So a couple last stories here is I got stuck in fear and self-doubt for years before I stepped into my coaching business. I spent 3 years out of the 6 that I had my online marketing business totally caught up in my fears and doubts and patterns and everything. Confusion, lack of clarity, overwhelm, self-doubt, all of these things kept me stuck for 3 years. And that manifested for me as anxiety, as panic attacks, as health issues. My body literally started to say, hey, you need to make a change here. But I was so wrapped up in those fears and doubts. So that was my first experience of getting stuck in this. And that created a fire in me to have other people not have to go through that, not have to get stuck for so long. Because that's what happens I see it all the time. People go, they cower, they don't go for it, or they take themselves out of the game. And then a year goes by, and then another year goes by, and they keep telling themselves they're going to do it someday. And, hey, some of them do eventually, usually if they get support, but many of them don't. And that is just incredibly sad to me because, again, I am here to help people self-actualize, to really go for their dreams. Now, after I got to that point of it's like now or never, I have to do this. It literally felt like life and death because I saw that if I didn't go for it, I thought my body is giving me these strong signs. I might even get sick. I was really at that point, and I said, I have to go for this. I have to build this business. I know this is what I'm meant to do. And I did. I took the leap, so to speak, or rather for me, it was more of a transition over time. I kept my day job, which was my previous business, for a while, and I transitioned. Within 8 months, I replaced my 6-figure income and then continued to grow from there. All in service to this mission, all in service to changing thousands and millions of lives around the globe eventually. So after I made the leap, though, people go, okay, I'm clear, I'm going to go for it. And they think the skies are going to part and the challenges are just going to go away now that they have the clarity. But the truth is, I had even more fear and doubt come up then. I wanted to quit so many times. I wanted to stop going for it so many times. And I didn't. But why didn't I? Because of support, truly. If I hadn't had the support of my mentor, of the coaches I worked with, if I hadn't had all these people on my team keeping me accountable to my word, I would have taken myself out of the game so many times in those early days. And then at every stage of growth, there have been moments where fear shows up to such a degree or doubt shows up to such a degree that it's paralyzing, or I want to quit, or I want to stop doing what I'm doing. Now I have tools to move through that. Now I've moved through it enough on my own that I can partially do it on my own, but I still hire coaches. I still get support because I know I don't want to get stuck there. I want to move through it quickly, and I want to get to that next place. So I just wanted to share that because, again, at every stage, the fears and doubts show up. And what makes the biggest difference is getting that support, whatever that support is for you, whether it's working with us or someone else. I highly, highly encourage it. So, and just know, it's going to take all of you. It's going to take all of you to go for this. It doesn't mean you can't have a life. It doesn't mean anything like that. But all of your heart and soul poured into making this dream, this vision a reality. It's the most fulfilling thing in the world. It's not just about making money. It's not even just about changing lives. It's about who you become in the process. It's about you waking up and going to bed at night going, I'm on track. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. It might be scary. It might be hard sometimes. It's hard work sometimes. But I know deep down, this is it. And I see myself growing and I feel myself growing, and I'm just so grateful. That's what we want for you. That is my mission and my why. So again, type clarity in the chat if you're curious to continue the conversation and really, like in the hero's journey, take that step from the world of the ordinary into the extraordinary, from the world of the known into the unknown. I'm here as your guide. You're the hero in this journey, not me. We each are the hero in our own journey, and we would love to support you. So thank you. Thank you. If you have any other questions, type them in the chat. I saw many people on live today, not a lot engaging in the chat today, but that's okay. Hope you got a ton of value. Would you just share with me really quickly before we jump off, what was your biggest takeaway from today? Anyone that's up for that, share your biggest takeaway from today. Okay, Alyssa, awesome. We'll reach out to you. Thank you. I just like to know you guys are getting value. I pour a lot into these lives. I love doing them. So if you would take like 2 seconds and tell me, what did you get out of today? I'll just have a little sip of coffee before we end here. What's that one thing you're going to implement? We talked about that before. And it helps other people really remember as well. Remember, we talked about diving deeper into your fears, really moving through them. We talked about making friends with your fear, taking action anyway. We talked about getting support to move through those patterns. We talked about a lot of different strategies, the self-doubt switch, turning down the noise, asking yourself those questions. If I couldn't fail, if I knew I couldn't fail, what would I do? If I knew I would be wildly successful, what would I do? Really walking yourself through. If you fail, or if people judge you, are you willing to go for it anyway? Because those are possibilities. Not quitting your day job, creating a why that's bigger than your fear. We went through a lot in under an hour. Okay, Tim says staying the course despite fears. Great, Tim. Awesome. Okay, you guys. Anyone else want to share a takeaway? If not, we will close up for today. Thank you for being here live. It makes it so much fun for me. Please come back. We do these every week, usually Mondays at 11 a.m. unless there's a holiday or something, but next week we will be going live at 11 a.m. again. Let's see, I don't have the topic. Let me just pull it up here so I can tell you what we'll be covering. It looks like next week is... Ooh, fun one. From scarcity and survival to prosperity and trust, how to cultivate a wealthy coach mindset. Good stuff, you guys. I hope you can make it next week, same time, 11 a.m. Central Time. So make sure you convert that to your time zone. And we're going to be talking about how to cultivate a wealthy coach mindset. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Alyssa. Thanks, everybody. And we'll see you next week.